we're live. Excellent. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Book from Scratch. I'm not going to talk about the theme again, because I usually do at the start of these videos. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Listen, I'm still writing. I'll be writing for a long time. This is Book from Scratch, where I am writing a book live. That's my way of trying to teach writing, how to creatively write. Like there's lots of different other YouTube channels out there that do it differently. They're fine. They're all completely fine. Being able to write, being able to teach how to write books. There's lots of different ways of doing it. Lots of different solutions to writer's block. There's lots of different ways on how to plan, how to write. This is my way, and I'm doing it live because I think that by you watching me type it out as I think about it and talk about it will help you bridge the gap between having your idea and kind of getting your characters and taking what you've written, like, you know, here on the page and everything on your notes. How do you get it from like that onto your computer, and then eventually the next step, which is editing it, and then the next step, which is trying to find a publisher or an agent, and the next step is crying because you finally found a publisher. At least that's the goal. So that's what Book from Scratch is all about. Now I'm continuing to write the first chapter of the first book in this anthology. The reason why it's an anthology is that it's like 10 books, and if I do 10 books I get to do 10 different genres. I get to learn as I go, I get to teach you as I go, and I also have to adjust how I write for each genre, because each genre, it doesn't require, but it's not such a bad thing to write in the style that's expected of that genre. And I'm going to take an hour here, hopefully, to do all that. So, where were we last time? I'm not going to read everything I just wrote in the last episode. Go watch that if you need to know what I wrote. And so I'm just going to summarize it. Fortress and Huxton, our main characters, started off fighting some sort of soldier. At first, it seems like this soldier is not flesh and blood. They're fighting it in their house. There's a bit of chaos. They smash Huxton's mother's and father's stuff, which makes them worried. At first, there's a bit of sort of animosity, it seems, between them, but that's just because they're in a difficult situation and they've got no time to be nice to each other, so they're a bit quick with each other, shall I say. And then that banter gets more into, they figure out, like they view this soldier in their house as their main enemy, so they start working together, and then they're now in the sort of stage where they're back to their ordinary friendship, where they're working together, they're taking care of each other, and they've just managed to send this soldier falling down a well, and the soldier couldn't see where it was because he had a rug that was on fire, so that soldier's essentially out of the picture. But now they were on the floor, they crashed to the ground, now they're getting up, and now they're surveying the scene. And now everything I've written so far was action orientated to keep the reader's attention. It's a little bit of fleshing out how their characters are by doing that slow progression in a very relatively short amount of text, and I feel like I established their friendship and where it's at, but now I need to put, like a good fantasy should, I should really sort of put this in context about where they are. And I kind of had to do it briefly so I don't slow down the action too much, so that the reader gets bored listening about locales and what's here. Now this is essentially what I do is I take the big picture, which is here, and then I break it into what you might consider a few pages of where action is focused on these specific things, and then I break it down into these little things within each one, and you think that each one of these are maybe a couple of paragraphs covering that specific section. And I do this to plan, because then it's a little bit easier to write, because I know what's coming, and I also know that what's coming gels with what came before and sets up what comes later. Now there is always going to be a little change as we go, but that's life. That's the writer's life. So I made it to here. Head outside as flaming soldier tries to get them. Describe village. So obviously that's quite that's broad in a sense. and I expanded on it while I was writing. So I didn't expand it and do 1, 2, 3 set pieces. I just did that as I wrote. There's a limit to how much like of these like things you can do. Well, maybe there is for me, but maybe there isn't for you. So now I've got to describe the village on the edge of a swamp. The reason why I did a swamp, in a previous episode I said that so Fortis is an orc. In this universe, orcs aren't like, you know, this ramshackle army of hyper violent creatures. To me, they are definitely strong, but they kind of like, they're a bit rough around the edges, but in a good way. But I thought, where should orcs live that could be both, that matches that kind of traditional idea we have of orcs of maybe living on the edge of society, but also kind of nice, and like there could be lots of stuff there, lots of mystery and a power and a magic to itself. So I chose a sort of swamp / Everglades scenario. So no, they're not Florida Man, but I do think of that locale, and because like the Everglades is this wonderful, beautiful place. It's like, yes, it's incredibly flat, but it has islands. It has a network of waterways, and you can kind of think you're going to find houses dotted around that with people claiming the land and everything they find in it, the fish, perhaps some deadly creatures akin to crocodiles, etc. And a swamp doesn't necessarily suggest, like, I guess in some sort of fantasy locales, books, stories, it suggests somewhere sort of dank and moist and like dirty maybe, but I think it has enough like magic about itself, a bit of whimsy, a bit of well, it's beautiful in its own way, to use it as the orcs' settlement, but it's not on the fringe of society. They have their own culture, they have their own houses, and this swamp borders Huxton's more static, more traditional fantasy village, which I think is fine. So now I have to describe it as they rise to take in the scene. I think it's a good idea to have some light, twilight. Hang on. How should I phrase this? So they get up. Hang on a minute. Bosh. Okay. I'm going to have to sort of do terrible drawing. I think. I'm sorry. I am a terrible drawer. Now then. Okay. Horizon. This is going to have to be the swampy sort of area here. Lots of little islands breaking up the waterways. Oh, do you know what? I need a picture of, say, the Everglades, since I want to base it kind of on that. This is what you will do when you're writing. You're going to have to like type, or before you even type at all, you're going to have to go somewhere else and find some information to keep you going. Okay, let's find some images of the Everglades. Oh, there's coral in the Everglades. I'll go into this. Right, so, okay, so you're going to have, there's going to be some sort of trees. Let's see. One of these pictures has to give me something. It's more, these islands are going to have to be so close together to sort of give the impression of waterways. It looks like that on the, if I'm judging these pictures right, this is where you're going to have the trees on the edge. So so there'll be a forest and then the swamp. So in order to get to the swamp, there's going to have to be a pathway that people have made. So let's say that that's the clearing that's been made in the forest. Do you call it something else, maybe? Maybe a forest that borders a sort of swampy area. Okay, look, don't complain about my artistic skills, please. I'm doing this quickly to give myself a rough idea. So, if that's their clearing, if that's their clearing, then I also want to be able to describe the swamp in that's close by. So we're going to need houses here. So let's say that's the well. Huxton's house. Sorry, I do this thing where in order to know who I'm talking about without having to write their name, I just put their first letter of their name in a circle, so I know that's Huxton's house. Then we're going to need, it's going to be like a church. Now, I'll see if I can show you in case you're coming to this late. This world is on the back of a giant snail called, at the moment, named Snakar. So I thought that since he's essentially like the god of this world in some sense, because all the world rests on him as he goes back into his shell at night, comes back during the day. So it's like got two suns, this world. So I realised that I'm going to call it generic religion for the time being until I think of it more along the way. So every church should have two towers to mimic Snakar's back, and the building is essentially like, it's segmented, and it sort of follows a snail shell sometimes looks like it's doing that, doesn't it, as it twists around to create that. So you've got these like layers, so the church actually rises, and then it will always have an annex on this side to denote that part of the helical shell. So the church will be in this case it's like a centre for learning and whatnot. So they've got to Fortis and Huxton. We're going to have to sort of see this, and then where was I? Here we are. And back to this. So there's a bit down here, by the way, that says run to meet other villagers. I'm going to cross that out and go straight to that. I think I'm going to send them straight into the village library, which will be in that church. I just feel that that's simpler. But now I've got to describe it. Oh dear. Okay. They rose to take in the scene. Actually, that sounds bad. They rose. No, I'll have to leave it for that, and I'll come back to that and re-edit that in the future. That's what happens when you're writing. You're gonna sort of go, I'm not doing anything else. That's fine. Rose to take into scene in the dim. No, I can't say in the dim light of twilight. That's using light too much. In do you say as twilight fell? As twilight. As twilight. Bridged a gap between Snakar's rise and yes, Snakar's waking and his yes. This is now, I'm creating lore here accidentally in order to also bring a sort of fantasy element in here by linking day and night to Snakar's waking and going to sleep, because if you think about it, he's essentially setting the dawn. So I always imagine that when he's awake and he sort of slimes his way across the universe, so to speak, his eyes are the sun, and they stay consistent where they are in the day. So there's no noon. There's no high noon. Oh, don't I need a high noon for the Western episode? I'll have to think about what that's called. So, actually, I suppose his eyes would rise, stop, and then he would slowly retract them throughout the day. So that's fine. There can be a high noon in this place. But I'm going to call it Snakar's waking and he's sleeping. So rather than day, it's called waking, and when it's sleeping, and when it's night, it's called sleeping. So, or Snakar's sleeping, Snakar's waking. So they link it to what some sense amounts to deity. He does have a small moon going around him, so maybe the moon should be a smaller snail and it should be called like Snakar's sun or something. Ah, darn it. Make a note of that. The moon is a smaller snail. Snakar's... Well, actually, aren't snails like both? Snakar's child, we'll call it. Just in case snails are both, in which case I'd rather keep, you know, the gentle neutral term for whatever a snail is. I'll have to look that up later. So, okay. As twilight bridged the gap between Snakar's waiting and his sleeping, the soft light... light. As twilight bridged the gap between the Snakar's waking and his sleeping, the soft light... I don't want to say light again, it sounds wrong. I don't want to say illumination, that's too much. There's got to be another word for light I can use. Light. Luminescence. Gleaming. Luster. Waking, and as twilight bridged the gap between Snakar's waking and his sleeping, the luster... No, doesn't sound right. The glow, the soft of the world snail's eyes showed a village in turmoil. Soldiers just like the one... Soldiers just like the one that tried to murder Cultures and Huxton. No, wait, hang on. That had interrupted Fortis and Huxton. Fortis and Huxton's... I don't want to call it a gaming session because it sounds like they have a PC, which is what I was thinking immediately. Soldiers just like the one that interrupted Fortis and Huxton's... No, I'm not going to do that because I can't think of anything that they might have been doing at the time. Soldiers just like the one that had tried to murder... tried to kill Fortis and Huxton were everywhere. Were everywhere. Smashing into homes, chasing villagers, trying to burn down the meager... No, not down, the human settlements. The human settlements. What would Everglades smell like? So I'm just trying to think what a swamp would smell like. Soldiers, just like the one I tried to kill Fortis and Huxton, were everywhere, smashing into homes, chasing villagers, and trying to burn down the human settlements. Okay, time to give these settlements a look. The thatched roofs offered a tantalising kindling for the torches the soldiers beheld. Bucket chains were forming quickly, but the fires were spreading out of control. Smoke permeated the air, acrid and Acrid, unpleasant. I'm not going to say unpleasant. Smoke permeated air, acrid and stinging the eye. Acrid. And bitter in the throat. What do we do? Okay, no, is that describing it enough? Smoke, acid, bitter throat. Okay, I know what to do. I need to. What I'm thinking is, I need to put the village in the context of where it's in the swampy area. How do I do that? Easy. I have someone reference it, but naturally, not just like Hawks. Like I can't have Huxton or Fortress go, oh look, the swamp's over there. That's not how you do it. You got to Howard someone. That's it. So who could do this in the village? Okay, I guess there could be essentially a minister from the church who could say something, but I would imagine he's in the church. I'll go with a village elder. Elder passed by. On their way to help one of the town wardens. I'll just use the town wardens to essentially suggest a police force of some description or guarding force. A village elder passed by on their way to help one of the town wardens. Get to this. The children have been sent. The children have follow. Get into the boats. Head. Okay, he was gonna say orc settlements, but I don't want to say settlement. Get to the swamp. Follow them and get into the boats. Head for the types of houses in swamps. Trusty the stilt house. Oh, yes. Get to the stilt houses of the. Let's look up geography of a swamp. A wetland transition. Minerals, woody vegetation, tree streams, and marsh. Oh, marshes. Get to the stilt houses in the something marshes. Reed marshes? No, it is a name. He's an orky kind of name. Get to the stilt houses in the. Maybe I should name it from. The reason why I'm about to say Florida is because. Oh, hang on a minute. Famous worldwide swamps. Okavango Delta. Could call it the Vango Marshes. Botswana, known for its sprawling grassy plains, which is a delta, so that kind of is swampy. What else have we got? Okavango, the Everglades, can't call it the Pantanal. Tropical wetland, it's located in Brazil. I can't call it. Okay, this is something perhaps you might want to think about when you're writing. I was going to call it the Pantanal because I've never heard of it because of the fact that I'm British. Like the Everglades, definitely have heard of it. It's in America. All the films are from America. Although there obviously is a thriving sort of film industry in Brazil. I never watch it. So I thought then that Pantanal would sound very fantasy because I've never heard of that place, but it's a real place for people and it's just as important as the Everglades is. So I can't call it the Pantanal, even though I'm making a slightly problematic thing of thinking, oh, that sounds exotic. I apologise for that immediately. But it's something to watch out for in your writing, that when you name stuff after stuff, do you kind of have a right to do that? Like, I would definitely go looking for ancient, like, gods in, say, Greek or Roman times, alter the word slightly to become a god in another fantasy universe, or because that god is the god of X, and therefore and a character in a book is kind of like that, it kind of makes sense to utilize the name. That seems kind of fine because no one worships those gods now. They're culturally significant, but they're also accessible. Maybe I should name it off. Can I use these? The thing is, right, another thing is that if someone who was from Brazil picks this up, they'll go, he's just named it after, it's like London might seem like an exotic name to someone living somewhere else in the world, but if a Londoner picked up a thing and then saw a city called London in a fantasy book, they'll just go, that's boring. It needs to be different. Okay. Maybe I should just make up a word. That sounds nice. There's something marshes. I know. Flora? You get in swamps. Okay, I'm going to go further afield. What I'm going to do is use the types of plants you get and use our names for them here to become it. The something. The stilt houses in the cattail, no, the willows, marshes. Yeah, that'll do. Wait, hang on a minute. Okay, cypress, willows. Okay, so willows are a type of tree, so I'll call it the willow marshes. Come on, okay, so. Come on, Huxley. Follow them to get to the children have been sent down to the swamps. Follow them, get into the boats, head to the stilt houses in the willow marshes. He ordered them. For holding his rusted sword, his rusty sword. No, not rusted, because rust. He's slightly bent sword. And bellowing a war cry. He ordered them before holding his slightly bent sword into the air and bellowing a roar as he charged. Charged to help the Warden. Come on. This is now a time to situate Fortis' home as being in the swamp. What? No! There we go. Come on, Hoxton. Fortis began. Let's go back for a second. Began. My parents would put. Shelter us until this attack is shelter us until this attack is over. My parents are still here. They're probably doing the. Okay, now I'm just trying to think of natural dialogue. Okay, so I've kind of. So I've established this is a village. It's got the sort of thatched roof cottages kind of look to it. Fighting, you have to stay there. Okay, can't call it church. Okay, Mum will be... Okay, essentially what I'm going to do here, I think that Fortis is being the wiser one here, wants to... Oh, hang on a minute. What Fortis is saying, like, Fortis is agreeing with the village elder, let's get out of here. That paints him possibly slightly cowardly. Like, But I mean, he should get out of there. There are children. They're not. Let's say they're young. Let's say 13 at the most. They obviously can't fight. And in all honesty, I sometimes scream at films where the children are making stupid decisions, like why are you doing this obviously stupid thing when you should be doing this? Like, get out the adult's way. Let them work. So I want to write this now. That gives them a good reason to stay here, and let them get involved. But I don't want Fortis to come across as cowardly, which he is kind of seeing. Come on, Huxton, Fortis again. My parents will shelter us until this attack is over. Okay, that's fine. My parents are still here. We have to find them. Perfectly logical reaction for Huxton to say, like, he doesn't want to go. His parents are here. He's worried about them. Oh, hang on. Bet that was bothering someone. They're probably doing the fighting. We have to stay out of their way. Okay. Oops. Huxton spun. Huxtron. Huxton spun on the spot, panting and search. No, like panting and searching doesn't panting heavily. So rather than saying searching, which is telling on a show, panting heavily and scanning the whole village. The whole village. Where are they? Where are they? He cried out. Okay, I know what to do. Rather than Huxton say it, your mum's... Okay, again, I don't want to call it a church, so... Alternative names for a church. Cathedral, chapel, temple, balisca. How big is a balisca? A large, important note, not calling it that. Minister, sanctuary. No, sanctuary has two. Abbey, shrine. Oh, shrine. Also sounds very fantasy. Your mum tends to the shrine of... No, shrine doesn't work because it's temple, chapel. Chapel works, I think. It's not church. Suitably generic. Where are they? He cried out. Your mum tends to the chapel. That's the hardiest building in your village. She'll be fine there. And your dad... cliche to make the dad the, like, and I was going to say soldier of, and your dad, the hardest building in your, wait, where are they? I know, I'm going to switch this. Your dad tends to the chapel. That's the hardiest building in your village. He'll be fine there. Your mum is a warden. Okay, I can't. Your dad tends to the chapel. That's the hardest building in your village. He'll be fine there. And your mum is a warden. She's fighting these things. I think I'm so worried. No, I'm separating them again. Okay. I was about to have Huxton, like, shout at him, "She's my mother!" And, like, that means they're now breaking apart. I want to keep them together because they're working together. It solidifies their friendship and their characterization. Your dad tends to chapel. That's the highest. Yeah. He'll be fine there. And your mum is all in. She's fighting these things. Oh no. If I want to keep them together and bond their friendship and show that bond, then they should be relying on each other. So what Huxton is going to do is ask Fortis for help. What do I do, Fortis? This is my village. Who are these guys? Fortis licked his lips. Darting his head at screams and cries. People he had known for years were fighting for their lives and dying. Forget this one. Oh no. We need to get. I need to get a message to my village. No, not village. To my. Oops. The chapels. Okay. Now I need a communication system. See, okay, this is where my thinking is at. I would quite like for, like, in here, I have Fortis and Huxton playing a pivotal role in trying to end this. So, like, they realise that the solution isn't fighting the soldiers directly, it's tackling the person who's controlling them, who's there, say, watching this video and test running these soldiers. That's my thinking. But it's not such a bad thing to have, like, a bit of the local orcs come and help. So now I'm thinking there needs to be a communication. So they're going to head to the church, chapel now, I think. But what's a old-timey communication system that I could use? Cup and string. An animal? A really fast-running animal? Could use a bird, but, you know, it's too much like Game of Thrones. The chapel's beacon. They're both turned to the twin stalks of the chapel. Neither one was lit. We can do that. We can send for help. Good. Now this has sort of erased any sort of sense that Fortis' cowardly nature. It's a wise thing just to get out of the way, but this is Huxton's home. He's worried about it. He obviously doesn't automatically jump into the fray, which could be a bother for any like real fighting adults in this situation. But Fortis stands by him. He knows this town. He wants to protect it just as much as Huxton does. So he offers a solution that they can do that obviously no one else is doing. The chapel's beacon, Huxton said. They both turned to the twin stalks of the chapel. Neither one was lit. Why am I putting that in there? We can do that. Sorry, I just realised this probably isn't large enough for you guys to see. We can do that. We can send for help, Fortis. They both started running through the chapel. Sat on a low hill. Sat on a low hill overlooking the village. I reached the double doors and pushed their way in. Inside the heavy air, heavy incense filled air, the building. I felt cleaner, crisp, free from the smoke. You take that one, I'll take this one. If there's two installs, they might as well both do it. You take that one, I'll take this one. Who should say this? Should it be Fortis or should it be Huxton? This is Fortis' idea, but Huxton's the desperate one. I'll take this one, Huxton's. And darted. Wait, I've already used darted, haven't I? I'm back here. You don't dart your head. Licked his lips, turning towards. Oops, that's my phone. Put it on airplane mode. Okay, you take that one, I'll take this one, Huxton said, and darted for nearest tower. Fortis did the same. Huxton's legs. Huxton's legs felt. Huxton's legs burned with the effort of scaling. The winding? Yeah. Yes. Scaling the winding steps. When he reached the top, he looked over at the other, seeing Fortis reach the top of his tower. Ooh, how do they like them? Like them now. Like yours now. Hang on a minute. I know, what's the signal? What's the distress signal? Blue flames. Okay, so I thought that if you're using the church's things to signal someone, it's probably best that that signal be more like have distinct. I mean, people probably liked these chapel towers for religious regions, so if I suggest different colours, then that suggests different meanings. No, not blue flames, red flames. Come on, Mark, it's an emergency. Red flames, Fortis required. Looked around the tower. on. Hang on a minute. I've got to describe what's at the top of the tower. When you the steps opened into a circular. What do you call the top tower? Oh, it's a steeple, isn't it? Turret? Turret sounds military though. Platform seems too simple. Spire? No. Ah, no. It has to be what's called a cupola. A small dome-shaped structure. If the top of these towers are mimicking snail's eyes, then they'll have to be circular. The steps opened out into a the steps led to the cupola. Latticed, roofed. I need it to be lattice or to see the flames. To the cupola, circular. In the middle of which sat a fire pit, ready to be lit. You see, I don't actually need to, by saying ready to be lit, don't need to describe the wood and whatnot. People will just understand what should be there as necessary. What's the second hill? Red flames for it applied. Huxton. I should never ever added that to the dictionary. Actually, hang on. No, I'm not going to do that now. Huxton looked around the tower and saw seeing a crate stored in a crate next to the steps. Next to the steps. He flung it open and found a bag. A red cloth bag. He pulled it there. It's drawstring. I wonder what material burns red in a fire? Strontium or lithium? It's going to have to call powder. He pulled his drawstring. Oh no, unless. Oops, no. Okay, what I'm thinking here is this. He's going to pull open the bag. He's going to. I could just say powder, but that's boring. So what I actually need to do is describe the powder as strontium powder. Strontium is one of the things that you throw into a fire. It goes red. Not power, powder. That's strontium illuminate. Any picture? White. Good. White. Drawstring. Seeing. And inside was a fine white. Pour it on, and use the flints. Cooled out. Huxton dumped the entire contents onto the wood, waiting to burn. No, it can't be flints. Didn't use the oil. Oil flint. Dunstan dumped the entire contents onto the wood, waiting to burn. He then poured on a smidgen. Smidgen, yes, of oil. Pause for a moment. Then doused the whole thing in oil, just in case. Just in case. Okay, one of the other reasons why I want the orcs from the village, the marshes, to come and like add their power to what's going on is that I can't really have these two I'm envisioning to be 13-year-olds. They'll be revealed to be 13-year-olds at the time. I can't have them just turn up. Like, I can't have Huxton and Fortis solve this problem around that young age. It doesn't quite meet. It seems unrealistic. When we next see them, they'll be properly trained. This is their reasons for getting involved in sort of adventuring. So I need those orcs to show up. It also emphasizes that in this universe, orcs are not good, not bad. They're just like any other culture. He reached the flint and struck the metal on stone. Several sparks flew, and immediately, and the pyre. Is that right? A heap of combustible material. Yep. Sparks flew, and the pyre burst into red flame, into crimson flame. Fortis's tower lit up. They both yelled in triumph. Oh, dear me. They both yelled in triumph as the beacons cast. They'll be here soon. Help's coming. They'll be here soon. I know, hang on. What I was going to have now is, so they're in the two towers talking to each other, and I need to get them back into some action now. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to say they slammed the doors shut. Inside the heavy incense-filled air. It felt clean and crisp, free from the smoke of watering around the village. Son! Okay, so villagers were son. What's Huxton's father like? Massive. A big, tall man in robes stepped forward from the crowd. Just tending to a crowd of villagers. People lay pews. Their wounds were being tended to. Okay, so I need to hit both Huxton and Fortis and the readership with how dire the situation is. So the best way to do that is to do a shock thing. Perhaps so far we've seen something that's kind of not funny, but it's kind of light-hearted. You know, the guy falls down the well, and I've alluded to screams and shouts from people who are being injured right now. But time to get even more serious. Huxton went to embrace his father, but stopped when he saw the blood soaked into his robes. His father's hands wet with life fluid. No, hang on a minute. He saw the red stains. On his robes, and his father's hands wet with blood. Close the door. Close the door. His father said, turning behind him. I thought, no, I'm going to give his father a bit more air of authority. Just like the mother would have being a warden, his father's hands wet with blood. What are you doing? Quickly, get them. Barricaded. He calls the crowd. People step forward. Unoccupied pews to the door, to the entrance. What are you doing here? Yeah. The children were sent to the swamps. Fortis. Get them. Get the children to... Dad, we need help. No. Papa? Would Fortis say Papa, Father, or Dad? Dad feels modern. Is there another way of saying it? Daddy? Nope. Papa? Papa? No. Old man? No. Patriot? No, definitely not. Oh, I'm going to have to go with Father. I think Father sounds fantasy enough and old, because fantasy is set somewhat in the past. What are you doing here? The children were sent to the swamp. Fortis, get the children to your village. Father, they can help. Father, Fortis's people can help. Let us light the beacon. The beacons, because there's two. Let us light the beacons. Huxton's father's head turned to the twin... Can you call them the twin towers? No. Ooh, no. Too much like Lord of the Rings. The twin spires of Snakar's chapel. You're right. Light them, boys. Light them, boys. Huxton and Fortis turned to go, but their collars were then grabbed. Then you get out of here, and you leave by the back entrance. Skirt the skirt the tree line. Get to safety. Yes, Father. Okay, here I probably should link that with another sentence, but I'm running out of time. I just want to go to the end and finish this off. So I'm going to leave this for now, but I'm going to leave myself a comment quickly. Comment. Link these two sentences better. Okay, so now pour it on a bit more like that. As the beacons cast their light over the tops over the village. Okay, fine. Yeah, but Houston, help is coming. Now let's get going. Looks at each other with wide eyes. They went to three of the soldiers were there. Smashing at the door. No, not bashing the door. No. Hacking. Hacking at the door. And that's where I end. Cliffhanger for today. Three of the soldiers were there. Appeared over the edge. Three of the soldiers were there hacking at the door. Yes, that's fine. I'll stop there for today because I've done my hour. These can't be too long. How many words did I do? Nope, not there yet. Nope. There we go. How many words was that? 766. Need to be quicker. Less talking at the beginning. Just get on with it. You guys can watch the other videos to understand what's happening. Feeder soldiers there hacking at the door. Now, what I'm going quickly before I leave, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to. I need this chapter to be shorter, I feel. So, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut something out. I think. Now, the reason why is that in this here, I sort of explained how I would introduce magic to it, and I'm going to do this differently. So essentially they didn't go to the village library, they went to the chapel instead. Now they're not going to do that because now I changed it to the father instead. Right, but we are going to do this. And I think that, you know, what's actually going to happen is that Fortis and Huxton will join the fight and be useless, leading them to this part and then onwards to find the person who's controlling it. So what they'll do, they'll go down, they'll try and get involved, they'll be just bashed aside by the soldiers, they can't be any help, and that's when they realise that fighting like this is not working. We need a different solution, re-emphasising the general theme that what you've got to do is maybe think outside the box of a traditional sort of fantasy adventure, but also it's the theme of if you deal with what appears to be the littler, less important but actually very important little things, then it's much easier to solve these problems. So they realise that there must be someone controlling these things, and they go and find them. Because if you think about it, in a traditional fantasy, it might be that they'll try and defeat the soldiers, and in some sense the orcs now heading to the village to help out will be like the riders of Rohan coming down to save Minas Tirith. I kind of want to get away from that. I'm not criticising it in the sense that it shouldn't be in any books. It's brilliant. I love the riders from Rohan scene, but I'm trying to write something different that hits slightly differently. So they're going to go and find the guy controlling it, and he's going to be a kind of wimp. a very weak kind of guy, and so taking him out is actually quite easy, but by taking him out it weakens the rest of the soldiers, and then the orcs will rush in and they will smash the soldiers aside and save the day. But that was like a battle made so much easier because the soldiers were taken out. So in a way, I allow the kind of riders from Rohan's sort of scene, but with the orcs from the swamp coming to help. But it's easier thanks to Fortis and Huxton tackling a much smaller thing that is actually incredibly vital. And so in this first chapter, that whole theme is expressed, and then I can build upon it across the entire book. And I will stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this has been helpful. If it's not, can you put it in the comments, please, after you've watched? Like and subscribe as well, so I know that these videos are reaching people. Tell me what you would do differently. I don't mind reworking the story for that. And I just appreciate you watching. And I hope you're enjoying it. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.